Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to understand a new concept, joint stock company. And I'm requesting you to please excuse for my voiceover. I'm not feeling well, but it was important topic, so I have decided to discuss it with you. This is your new concept, joint stock company. We have already understood proprietorship, where what you have understood there is only one owner. Then we have discussed partnership when there are several partners decided to accumulate their investment to run a business. And in both cases, owners are within the business. That means in case of proprietor, the single person would be considered the owner. And in case of partnership, all the partners, let's say two, three, four partners, all four partners would be considered the owners. And now there is new concept for you. It's not proprietorship, it's not partnership. This is absolutely new way of creating your business entity. I have just shared some of the definitions over here where you can see that from here, first economist, then second, third, several definitions are present over here. But kindly note that this is the most important thing. It would be made under Companies Ordinance 1984. This is name of the rule. This is the name of the legislation. During 1984, this ordinance was passed and it became law. And secondly, it was introduced by a dictator, General Ziaul Haq. At that time, he was in the control of the government, and he had introduced this law. That is why it is called ordinance. Ordinance is taken from the word order. So this was merely an order, and it was not passed through parliament. So it is considered as an ordinance. So Companies Ordinance 1984 was the law with which you can create a company. All right. And secondly, general meanings are present over here where several economists have given their point of view. A company is an association of many persons who contribute money, common stock, and employs it for some common purpose. So it's a common thing when there are large number of persons, they have combined their financial resources, and these resources would be used for a particular project, and finally they will be willing to earn some profit. Now there is another very important aspect of creating company is formation, and here we will try to understand how a company is formed. Please look, this is one of the way where you can form your business. Let's say there is a single person and he has decided to start a business. He is inviting other people as well, or he can invite other people as well. So he will create an artificial person. And what is happening? This was the owner. Then he had invited other persons as well, and both are different outside the business. They have created an artificial person. Artificial means not organic, not original. It's not human being. An artificial person is created and they have named it ABC. Just giving you an example, ABC and company. So the name of that artificial person is ABC and company. All other public will come to know that there is a business entity, the name of which is ABC and Company. While owners are separate, the person who had a person or the persons who have invested their amount in this business entity, they will not be presenter. They will not be known as owners of the business. So an artificial person is created, and everything would be belonged to this name, ABC and Company. For example, they have bought the building. The owner of that building would be ABC and Company, not the original owner. For example, Asim was the person who had an idea to create a company. He had created an artificial person. The name of that artificial person, they have suggested ABC and Company. Now, when a building would be bought, what will happen? This building would be in name of ABC and Company. That means owner of this building would be ABC, not Asim, not other person, because they have created an artificial person. Let's say they have purchased a plant as well. Again, owner of this plant would be ABC and Company, not Asim, not other person. And then they have bought some machine as well. The owner of this machine would be ABC and Company, an artificial person, and Asim and other persons would not be the owners. So that is why the second word which you will use, an artificial person with limited liability. Artificial person with limited liability. This is the main theme of any joint stock company. So I'm very hopeful that you people have understood the concept of this company or joint stock company. I am repeating you. One person had an idea to create the business. He had created an artificial person. The name of artificial person was suggested. And now this business would be run by this artificial person, not by the owners. Owners are completely separate persons. They are not the managers. They will not be able to manage the business. Rather, this artificial person would be the owner and manager of this business. Whatever you will buy, that would be bought in the name of that artificial person. Original owners will have no concern. Now, some of the definition we can understand after this discussion. A company is an artificial person. We have already discussed created by law having a separate entity. Separate entity, what does that mean? I have told you owners are separate from this artificial person. This is called separate legal entity. It has its own entity. It has its own identity. It has its own ownership, ABC and Company, and with a perpetual succession and common seal. This we will discuss later on. So please understand, this is a kind of business entity where human beings are not the owners, rather than artificial person will be the owner of the company. And every asset would belong to that artificial person, and original owners would not having any concern. Now please understand, since it's an artificial person, there would be a limited liability. For example, the worth of this business is 1000 and the loan upon this company is 1200. This business would be responsible and liable only to the extent of 1000. 200 would not be returned to the person from whom loan have been taken. So these two words I'm requesting you to please keep it in mind. A company is an artificial person with limited liability. All of the resources will be owned by this artificial person. Owners are having a separate status. They would not be permitted to manage the business until and unless rules are favoring them. After this brief introduction, now we are starting its features, or you may call characteristics. This is the main heading which we will now be starting. So first is, it would be created under law, and that we have already discussed, Companies Ordinance 1984. This, under this law, all the companies, whether whatever the type of company is, that company would be created under Companies Ordinance 1984 in Pakistan. So these companies would be registered and these companies would be controlled by Pakistani law, which we have already discussed. Now, second is number of persons. All right, different companies we will see. Some of the companies would be private limited companies, or we will discuss single owner company, and then we will have public limited company. After few lectures, we will discuss these different types of companies. For the time being, you will understand when it is private limited company, it may be possible only single person or two, three persons are creating private limited company. In single owner, there will be only one person, and in public limited company, there is no limit. Unlimited number of partners can participate such business. So the second thing what we have discussed is number of persons, and then we have number of directors. That means the persons who can give directions or who can give orders. So again, it depends upon the nature of the company. If it is single owner, there will be one director. If private limited company, there might be one or two directors. In public limited company, again, it would be decided by the members how many directors are needed. And another factor we have discussed, it is an artificial artificial person. As we have said, it's not human being. Company would not be considered as human being. It is an artificial person. Then we have discussed as well, it would be having limited liability. That means this business is liable to the extent of their investment. I have given you an example as well. If 1000 loan has been taken and 800 or 800 is company's worth. So here I am telling you a sentence which you will keep in your mind. If you have taken a loan of 1000 but company's worth is only 800, so only 800 would be returned to the creditors. Even then, a loan of 1000 taken, but company is liable to the extent of its worth only. If company has worth of 800, 200 balance would not be returned. This is called limited liability. That means business is liable to the extent of business worth. This is absolutely different to partnership, where we have understood that partners and proprietors are liable as to the extent, not to the extent of the business, rather they are personally liable as well. So we have limited liability. Then very strange point, you will understand, it has permanent life. Now please understand, if all the directors, all shareholders or all participants are died, or even after the death of all the members, company would not be demolished. It would have permanent life and it could not be dissolved due to death of participants. Though it can be terminated, but that's a different thing. Please understand, a company cannot be dissolved due to death of all participants. Then transfer of shares. This we have discussed in partnership and proprietorship, where it depends upon partners. They can or they cannot transfer. But here, 100% open. So anyone who is who had participated in Joysa company or who had invested his amount in Joysa company, he has complete right to transfer his share, to sell his shares at any point of time to anyone else. Under partnership and proprietorship, you cannot transfer your shares, but in joint stock company, you can transfer your shares at any point of time or to anyone you want to transfer. This is absolutely a strange thing for you, that in any business as a company, you are 100% flexible to transfer your shares. Then we have common seal. As I have told you, this is an artificial person. So artificial person cannot sign any document. So instead of signature, a stamp or common seal would be used for the signatures. Then we have separate property. As earlier I have told you, here I was giving you an example. If they have bought building or plant. So building is a property. This property would be owned by artificial person. So it would have a separate identity. These owners would not be considered as owner of these building. This artificial person would be the owner of building. That is why what we are saying, it has separate property. A company would have a separate property and as well separate ownership. So please understand, the person, the owner who had the idea to create this artificial person was Asim. He had invited other persons as well. So these owners would not be the managers of the company. These person would not be the directors of the company. Company would decide by itself who will be the owner and how it would be decided by all participants. They will decide who will give the directions to the business. Alright guys, so we have 10 points and then we have capital. As you have said, understood that capital is the amount which is provided by the owners. And here I have told you that owners are separate to artificial person. Sometimes capital would be needed at a very large scale. So how capital would be made? These owners, like I have told you, Asim and other person, these persons will invite ordinary public to invest their company. And I am giving you an example. It is possible that thousands of persons have come and they have contributed and they have invested in this company. So what we have understood, this capital would be collected by partners, participants and shareholders. So it might be possible, I should write over here, thousands of investors can invest in company. Why I have written so that you can understand it well. Thousands of investors can invest in this company, but apparently it would be called capital. And please understand, as it's an artificial person, so very strict rules are present and regulations related to this. Strict rules, regulations are present, and there are separate institutes and organization which will monitor the progress of this artificial person. So it's not easy to manage these companies because of strict rules and regulations. Then we have inflexibility. Under partnership and proprietorship, we have seen flexibility. Whenever a proprietor wants to end this business, he can. Whenever partners decide to change the location of the business, they can. But under joint stock company, there is absolute inflexibility. You cannot change the name, you cannot change the address, you cannot change the nature of the business until and unless if it is according to rules and regulations. So there is no flexibility, no changes are present. There is democratic environment and management. How? Single person cannot decide. For example, if there are 50 people, they have invested their amount. And out of these 50, if 26 are saying yes, only then this decision would be made. Otherwise, whatever good or bad decision, it won't be made. So it is called democratic management, under which nobody can decide according to themselves. This would be, the decision would be made by a sort of voting out of total members. If more than 50% members are saying yes, only in that case that decision would be imposed. So it is called democratic management, and nobody is allowed to decide by itself. All right, and then the last point which we can discuss is dissolution, or dissolution means end of this company. Again, I'm telling you that the dissolution of this company is not in hands of owners. There are separate rules, and we will uh, discuss it in detail, that there is not direct dissolution. For example, we have seen in partnership and proprietorship, if proprietor had decided even after a single month that he wants to end this business, he can. Under partnership business, if all the partners are agreed to end the business, they can. But please understand, this artificial person is not allowed to dissolve the business at its own will. There are separate rules and regulations. Dissolution is not easy, and they will have to follow all the laws related to dissolution, and then they can dissolve the business. So this is brief introduction of company. The only thing which you will keep it in mind, please understand, it is not human. It is an artificial person. This artificial person would be considered owner. All the properties, all assets would belong to this artificial person, and owners would have separate position. Please understand, owners would be considered, would be having a separate position. They would not be the representatives of this particular business entity, but though they have good strong position as an owner Asim, or the initial persons who have invested, they would have very strong position, but they would not be considered as representative. Since this ABC and company, this is an artificial person, and by own his name, he is actually the business entity. These are having a separate status. Owners would have separate status, and these 15 points are very important. You are requested to please repeat and revise this lecture, and after that we will discuss it later on. If you feel anything difficult, you can text, message, or you can directly contact to share your difficulty to understand, and hopefully I will be 100% available for answering your queries. So it's time to end our lecture. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say goodbye. Allah Hafiz.